Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, all that jazz, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Firefall Live. I'm Frank Lettieri, community manager here for Firefall and Red 5 Studios. We have a great show for you today. We're going to be covering talking about some open world. I'm going to do a quick dev tracker update first. Talk about some things that Gord Talk went over. We have an add-on spotlight with a special guest interview. No, she's not going to be on, but we're going to do an add-on spotlight and then end it off with caption this. But as always, I'm joined by the lovely Mika.
Meow.
And Anthony Ordon is with us. Right, Anthony?
Hi there.
Who's been with us for, about a month now?
About a month now, yeah.
As lead open world designer. But we'll get to that in a little bit there. I just wanted to do a quick recap on the dev tracker. So I think one of the most notable things is the stuff that Gortok was talking about, Primus. Everyone's still looking for crafting updates. Everyone's looking for updates in general, like PvP and all that stuff. But Gortok went out there and talked about crafting, and he's got some iterations. He's even told me, he's like, yeah, I got lost. Like I'm sitting there playing it, and I got lost in the system, and he's just having a lot of fun with it. But I mean, we'll see how you guys handle it. But he's out there, he's talking about the system and a little bit, talking about some of the choices you're going to get to make, and how I think one of the things he keyed on was that when you're going through your recipe, you can make something when the output could become epic, or it could become blue, but it depends on how much you're willing to put into it. So that's one of the things that's going on in there. And be sure to check out that thread if you want more details, because I don't want to like line by line read out everything he said. But yeah, Gortok went out there, and you guys asked, and he's alive. He's out there updating everything. But yeah, Anthony, as lead open world designer, one of the interesting comments I saw in Chris's post about your top 3 likes and dislikes was that you came in there and introduced yourself, and someone was like, "Is Sarah gone?"
Yeah.
Thinking Sarah's a world builder. So as a lead open world designer, like what does that entail to you?
Yeah, so open world design, specifically content design, is sort of the funnel in which all of that stuff goes through, right? So we have the narrative team, and we have the world building team, we have the level design team, and combat team, and all these sort of systems come together, into the game you play. And so the way that it comes together is that a content designer sits down and actually puts the guys, in the places where they come up. And so what we do in open world design is we sort of work with all those teams to figure out exactly how we're going to build those experiences, into the world, right? And so what's exciting now is that apparently Firefall has always just sort of had a content team, not specifically an open world team. So now we have a specific open world team who will be spending time exclusively on just building out those experiences in the open world. So, which means that we'll be thinking about it around the clock and all that stuff. So yeah. But I mean, in terms of like what Sarah does is, she's going to be providing us. We'll work together on how we're going to build the space, and then she'll be providing us with the details, the artwork, all this sort of, a little bit of the design and how the area actually appears, right? And then what content we'll eventually be doing is, putting in what actually lives there, creatures, enemies, that kind of thing.
Cool. Yeah, so there is a little bit of a difference there. And you guys all, if you've seen the show maybe about a month and a half ago, probably met our lead world builder, Mark Downey, when we were showing off Ares missions. Not the Ares missions, sorry, the core missions. I don't know why I had Ares stuck in my head there. The core missions when we had Derek and Mark on. So that's a little bit of a different task, but they do, you guys do work really closely together on that.
Yeah, I've already had a bunch of conversations with Mark, hopefully more soon, especially when it comes to, right now we're working with a lot of existing space. And so what the world building team is helping us out with is any sort of refactoring that we've done. But I'm really looking forward to working with those guys, if we ever do anything sort of, brand new and shiny. So
yeah, new and shiny.
The forethought that can go into some of those areas, and just the amount of work you can do ahead of time is really exciting and fun, especially when you get involved with all of these different teams, So.
Yeah, and another, excuse me, one of the other things you mentioned there was like we always had a content team, but not an open world team, and I think that's like a testament to like how we've grown and how we're actually restructuring things so that we have like the you have like the core missions guys, and then we're like, okay, well we need the people that are focused on the open world constantly. So that's
absolutely. I think there's definitely narrative sort of runs is one of those things that runs through everything, just like level design or world building.
Right.
But like you do have the core, right, and designers who are specifically working on scripted sort of narrative, takes a special kind of thinking, and I'm really excited to start doing it here. So
nice.
Awesome.
Am I the only one hearing a hum sound? I'm sorry, guys. the servers are working hard right now.
The hamsters are turning the wheels.
I'm just humming. Yeah, so we went ahead and started a thread this week, to get some questions out of the community, see what kind of topics they wanted to discuss on the show today. Mika, you want to take the first one there?
Yes, the first one I would love to take.
The first one.
As personally, I would like to know.
All right.
Personally?
Will there be more sniper-friendly mission areas going forward in the open world?
So one of the things that we're working on right now is we're trying to redefine some of the spaces where a lot of the open world content takes place in. And one of the considerations in there is, how does this level work for all these different sort of classes and battle frames that the game has? And the nice thing is that we've already established a really strong back and forth level design and building out these spaces that support different roles, right? All that kind of stuff. I certainly think that as we move forward, I'm working on some of the more like cooperative encounters where you've got people who are like tanking or doing a lot of damage or supporting, right? We definitely want to build in places for the sniper, right? For places people with special roles can sort of exist, jobs for them to do in combat or encounters that take advantage of the skills that they have. So yeah, I've already been talking a lot with combat team and level design, and they're excited about working together on that stuff. So
nice.
Sweet.
Yeah, I know that's something that the level designers on, and that's funny because like you were like personally, and I was like, oh yeah, she does play recon. That's her frame.
Yeah, I've actually jumped into a recon recently myself. So actually on the development server, playing some of the Raptor changes, right? So
yeah,
I've had a lot of fun with that.
Oh boy.
And it does
hard modes right now a little bit. Really test your skills.
Playing it, as playing the game as a sniper, right, feels completely different than playing it as assault, which is what I usually play. So, it's I try to jump around.
Can't really face check as much.
Yeah.
Rocks are your friends.
Yeah.
Not just does it feel good for the assault go, which that's not really like what we did before, but. It's even more carefully considered to be like, how can we really highlight and accent the strengths of a recon or expose its weaknesses?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I guess I'll take the next one. Oh wow, I get the good one. So the process, like talking about the process of creating a whole new open world zone. Like if we were to make one from scratch.
So yeah, if making one from scratch, usually there's two kind of ways to approach it. One is sort of a bottom-up narrative approach, right, where we decide what happens here, like what the zone's history is, what kind of characters will live here, that kind of stuff. The other one is sort of take a more that wouldn't be the top-down approach. The bottom-up approach is when you sort of go in from with no real narrative or like tonal predisposition, I guess, and then you sort of design what gameplay goes here and stuff like that. I kind of try to take as much of a middling approach as possible. Talking to the narrative team what they want to accomplish, talking to the combat team what they want to accomplish. I definitely think that zones in the open world should all have their own unique identity and feel, and so when you're hopefully, someday when you're in Firefall, New Eden will feel different than Surtau. I mean, it already does to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But what you want is a sense of purpose. Why am I here? What am I doing? What are we trying to accomplish? Those are the kinds of things that, from a very high level, we go in, and then we sort of break down, into areas, and then go into that more sort of detailed, what actually occurs here. What's the player's purpose here? What are the NPC's purpose here? Why are we in this space? And then from our, drilling into content, I like to try to figure out what's the impact of this content, right? How will this affect the state of the world as we understand it? What things can we change? What things can toggle back and forth? All that kind of stuff. So, you know, it's a huge topic. I'd probably talk about all day. So, if you'd like to go on to another question,
they wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I think that covers all the follow-up questions. So, basically, one of the follow-up questions to that was, you know, how do you determine what part of the zone sits where and how? And that's kind of like, I guess, a conversation between the teams and.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things that go into it, right? It's a little tricky. MMOs specifically sometimes require, you know, the leveling band, right? And so you have to establish a flow that makes sense. And then also you kind of want, you know, you don't want the areas to feel like they're expired or dead to you right after you moved on. So you want that sort of need to return. And so, you know, everything sort of has to flow backwards and forwards in the open world. And then also you don't want to feel like you're on a rail or you're on some sort of linear experience. And so deciding out where things are going to be, you know, I think we'd start with, you know, again, the high level sort of understanding of what the zone is for, right? Like what is being accomplished in the zone. And so I always think of New Eden as sort of this staging area for, you know, like the Chosen War, right? So we're gathering resources and stuff like that. And then, you know, a region like Sertao would be sort of the transit to that warfront, and then finally you end up in the Amazon where the warfront is. And so I think a lot of it is going to depend on the, you know, the tonal sort of mood of the zone and what it's for, right? And so New Eden, you might have this sort of sprawl where everything is distributed and you can kind of go into any direction, you know, and then in Sertao might be more linear and focused, you know, so we're sort of channeling through a zone, right? And then in the Amazon, you sort of get back to like, you know, maybe concentric and then pushing outwards and stuff like that. So,
yeah. When mild still.
Coral Forest, yes. I'm sorry, I always call it New Eden.
It's I mean, technically.
Yeah, it is New Eden.
Technically, yeah. New Eden encompasses both Coral Forest and Sertao.
Yeah.
So yeah. When Milestone. That's old school. What's up, cool Matt? Mika, do you want to take the next one?
Yes.
Yes. Personally.
Personally again.
What would you like to design if you could design any open world content for Firefall without worrying about engine limitations?
Without worrying about engine limitations. One of the hardest things to really get across in almost any game is verticality. And a lot of that's because it's really difficult to communicate that space to a player on a 2D map. But what I'd love to do is, you know, maybe go to like a city, right, or something like that, where you can get into structures that are really tall, or even go to like this like space, right, or something like that, you know, where we could sort of work in a truly 3D environment. I have a lot of fun in Firefall doing things like jump jets, obviously, gliding, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, getting in more vehicle gameplay would be really exciting. You know, letting players drive drop ships would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, you know, it's all that stuff is really easy to say and then, really hard to actually get into the game in a meaningful way that actually feels good. So you know, I've played lots of games where, you know, they have underwater combat or, you know, lots of height in the maps. And it's just a mess because you don't really understand where you are in relation to the content. So I think you would need a lot of work to get that right. But if we could pull it off, right, it would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So yeah, keep in mind, guys, that was all like pie in the sky. That's not like
we're talking about like
as dangerous thinking.
If time is infinite and you know,
resources are unlimited and all that, you know.
But that being said, I mean that should inform you hopefully of what I intend to do. You know, maybe on a smaller scale.
Right.
You know, like where can we get that in little bits, right? Like where can we get some verticality in? I always look at Skydock as a really kind of neat example of like. This is a really vertical level, right? You know, and it's small enough and contained enough to the point where it doesn't become a navigation nightmare. You know, and you work with level design and world building to make it make sense. But you know, we could do stuff like that. You know, we could try to incorporate the best parts of Firefall in there, gliding. You know, jump jetting.
I was reading some of the chat. It was the flying space cities.
Sky
confirmed.
cities.
Yeah, Sky Cities.
Trolls.
Yeah, why don't we just giant mechs? Let's just go. Orbital launches to the moon. Yeah, just so we can just completely.
Orbital launches to the moon.
Now with that, take the engine limitations into consideration, and tell us what you'd want to design if you had no deadline.
If I had.
If you had
guys
no,
are-
wait a minute. When do you want this to come out?
Yeah, no deadline. It's always tempting to do the infinite project, right? Like we can always make it better. More than half of the time, I think in development should be spent on polish, and so it's not really about what I would do if I had no deadline. It's really more about where I would spend the time, and so hopefully we can spend more time sort of building again the spaces that feel really deliberate. One of the things that I see a lot in Firefall is there's this great sense of kind of emergence almost, where there's different things happening around the world. And so one thing I'd like to add to it is deliberate spaces where lots of things can happen, right? And so assuming we could extend the project forever, right? I think what I would do is I would keep making those those regions feel important, right?
Yeah.
By like adding stuff that can occur there, right? And so this town that used to, or this sort of bandit fortress maybe that used to be just a bandit fortress can now also be like a place where the Chosen will invade. And so there can be different sort of states of that narrative for there to exist in the open world, right? It's like this, I don't know.
Deadline? We don't need those stinking.
Yeah, we don't need a stinking deadline. Yeah.
Giant bridge the crossroads.
It's ready when it's ready.
Bridges have been coming up a lot in chat. That's one of the running gags since Amazon, since there's bridges everywhere, like little bridges.
Yeah.
Bridge fall.
Yeah, what do you need bridges for? Like, I mean, you can fly, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, you can get the Lancer LGV to jump, when you're driving.
Perfect.
So.
Yeah, I was browsing the Tournament forums one day, and somewhere down there's a fan concept for. It's a bunch of like floating rocks, right? It's a really cool idea. I have no idea whether or not it's possible, but those are the kinds of things that if we had no deadline, what we would do probably is we would just explore possibilities, right? And so we could go into and just like try this out. Does it not work? Well, then forget about it.
Right. I mean, that's the big thing with infinite possibilities is like. We have a team, and we've been we've done that a lot. Where it's just like let's try this out.
Yeah.
Like it didn't work out as well, and it's some of that stuff you guys have seen firsthand. I mean, because we've been so open with the development process and through beta, but that happens a lot. Where it's just like, especially when you don't put that kind of deadline on yourself, like you get stuck in that loop.
Yeah, I mean the hardest thing to do is to take not even necessarily. Not all ideas that don't make it into the game are necessarily bad, but sometimes you realize when you get into something that it will require a lot more investment to make it good. And so the hardest thing to do is to backtrack and turn around. And so assuming no deadlines, you could potentially explore a lot of space. But all that said, I think what you said about being open in the development process and sort of sharing a lot and having the players see a lot of stuff. I think that's one thing that's really special about Red 5. And I hope to obviously. It's difficult with the live MMO, right? Because there's all these sort of like, it's already out there, and we want to keep things going and rolling and stuff like that. So hopefully we can still be open though, right? And sort of, share with everyone what's going on. So that's why I'm happy to be here today.
Awesome. Shots fired. We tried making Frank an NPC. He didn't work out, so we had to kill him off.
Oh, no.
Damn, that's shots fired. How dare you?
I'm going to make a Frank NPC now.
Well, we had Frank from the Devil Hawks.
Oh, okay.
You first
He's
meet
already
him.
there.
You first meet him in Mission 5, and by spoiler alert. Okay, by Mission 8, he's dead. It's
so
like, damn it.
I'm going to explain to you a very common narrative tool that we designers use crappily to get our way, which is Frank has a brother.
A twin brother named Frank.
Named Frankie.
Frankie?
And he shows up in a later mission.
Frank with a PH.
I don't know. Like, we should get Boone out here. Did we figure out cloning yet in 2235?
I don't know. You would think. I mean, come on.
Yeah, dude. Freaking trolls. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So one of the things that players were asking about was, or someone at least asked about, was like hiding more sin imprints, like having those kind of like things that you can run around and collect in the world as you're there.
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of those systems. I love collect all the things, especially when those things have a strong attachment to the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Sin Imprints is a good example. I'd like to, if I can, get that system exposed a little more. So the first time I played Firefall, after a ship, I had no idea, or when that was put in anyway, that was there, right? So the messaging side of that is really important. And then also, just more sort of exploration challenges. Now that I've been inside the world a little bit more and like in the tools, I've kind of been exploring sort of the outer regions and like looking for places to put content and stuff like that. And the world builders have done a fantastic job of creating this environment that is like super exciting to explore. And so what I'd like to do is get, again, infinite time talking here. We get in some more. I know you guys had live events where you did like glider challenges and stuff like that. I mean, I'd love to get in. Go to this place in the world. Get on a glider and then go through this crazy course. Through some of the most amazing environments that I've ever seen in a game. Right. So.
And then it takes you to a secret cave that you probably may not have found on your own without.
I mean,
without being directed there through this thing. Kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, I think there's a whole. Every open world game needs to have a layer of just explorable tasks, right? Where things that you can either stumble upon or set out to go find, but either way, it's not guided, right? Mm-hmm. You get there in your own way, in your own time, in your own sequence, right? So I'm hoping to see more of that in the games.
Yeah. Mika's turn.
Oh.
We're so prepared.
Sorry, my contacts are wonking out.
Wonking out.
Wonking out.
Confirmed.
Are you looking for a way for squads to do the same areas jobs board at the same time, possibly scaling the difficulty of the mission board on the amount of players in a squad? I believe you can already do that, though, right? Technically?
Yeah, I believe that's technology that's already supported.
Yeah, I mean, you could do it in a squad. I think you follow the leader's area's job. So whoever the squad leader is, they pick a job, and then everyone goes around with them, and everyone gets awarded appropriately along with the leader.
Yeah, jobs are one of the things that we started to look at already because it's a bunch of content that's already sort of in the game. And so one of the things that we'd like to do with jobs is, again, make some of them more deliberate in nature. So instead of there's definitely a place for go out and like find a random sort of job location, but there's also, I think, a really strong need for go to this specific spot in the world where you'll probably encounter other players doing the same job, and then have sort of combat experiences there. And so one thing that we're kind of maybe playing around with the idea of is, again, sort of scaling objectives that sort of work with multiple players that aren't even necessarily on the same squad. They might even just be in the job space together, doing the job at the same time. And sort of the pie in the sky moment, right, could be if you start a job and you go out to this place, like this, I don't know, I always reference the Bandit Fortress because that's, we have a lot of bandits in Coral Forest, right?
Yeah.
But, or you go to a chosen encampment or something and you see other players there, maybe you're not even doing the job, but you see other players doing the job and, you suddenly get, in your activity tracker or UI, a request for help these players doing this job, right? That's sort of the pinnacle of job design for me, is you go there and you start doing a thing and then other players can just jump in and help you, right? And so maybe you're like holding off a wave of enemies and then it says, oh, so-and-so is holding off a wave of enemies, why don't you help them out?
And everyone pretty much gets rewarded appropriately.
Yeah, sure.
Kind
I
of,
mean,
that's...
hopefully, the reward side, I don't want to speak too much for the systems team, but definitely been talking to them. And making that experience, half of the part of it is making it rewarding. So,
yeah, exactly. Like, that's one of the things I found from the feedback side. I think over the course of the game is that some people will do it. I mean, there's a group of people that will be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go help that guy, but you're more often gonna entice more group play when it's, when people feel like it's rewarding,
Yeah, absolutely. And to be clear, my expectation for the open world is that it is massively cooperative. Seeing another player in the open world should always be a good thing. And so, yeah, when you're doing a job, or when somebody else is doing a job, or when you guys are doing the same job, there should be no reason you can't work together, and there shouldn't be any sort of like, oh well, like this guy's in the same space as me, so he's going to be like annoying, right? It should be helpful.
But I have that, not necessarily in Firefall, but that's typically, it goes through my head when I'm playing an MMO. Like,
Yeah.
oh, crap, someone else is here. This is gonna be terrible.
Firefall is one of those few games that actually does it really well, where you can just sort of go places and see things happening, participate, whereas, in some games, the way that the content systems are set up or the reward systems are set up, it actually sort of punishes you or punishes the other player if you jump in. And so I'd like to stay, nice and freeform, so that you can just go and just do what you would normally do, right? If you're playing a game together with somebody.
Yotaro mentioned massively cooperating sounds like gimping the lone wolves, though.
No, absolutely not. The thing about the lone wolves is that they can go off, again into the areas of the map that aren't so populated. I think the thing is when you start funneling people towards hubs of activity, like your chosen encampment or whatever, yeah, you're going to run into other players. That's not necessarily a nerf or a gimp to the, to the lone wolf players. There will be definitely things in the open world to do that are not going to be on the beaten path, right?
Yeah.
And then also, I think there's definitely room for, even in those sort of larger group encounters, there's room for players that excel at soloing stuff, right? And so, if they can go, like you send one guy to go like handle this particular challenge off there or something like that, being solo, can be a role, right? That you can pursue if you choose.
Yeah, and I think that take an encounter like the Bronodon King, for example. I don't feel like that's so punishing to a solo player. Like, you'll be off doing your own thing, and then everyone's like, hey, Bronodon King's up. All right, I can go participate in that, and I'll get rewarded for my time in there.
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
I'll go back to being a lone wolf kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of just like, groupless play, yeah, I mean, like, what I mean by massive cooperative is that you don't have to, get into a group to go, like, enjoy the game with other people, right? So in terms of that, right, like, grabbing everyone's attention and then bringing them to an area where they can participate in a bunch of content together, yeah, without a doubt, we'll be doing things like that. Firefall already does do things like that. So I think that's a huge strength of Firefall. And then, just in terms of, like, if you just want to be by yourself, I mean, it's going to be a little difficult because it's an MMO, right? But I don't think that we're explicitly, like, saying, no, you can't do that.
Valorel 1982 over there on YouTube mentions one thing that's really important to prove is the core mechanics of the game, like thumping. Thumping is, I think, getting a look at. Sounds like it's following more on the systems side of things.
Yeah, thumping is a weird sort of half blend between systems and content. The thing about thumping is that you need, because you're getting resources, right?
Yeah.
You need something to do with those resources, and so I'm not going to steal any of their thunder. We're talking about what they're working on, but yeah, I do. I'll definitely be keeping a close eye on thumping and how that works with the rest of the game. So.
And Gortok had posted on the forums, mentioned that it's getting a slight change. It's probably not getting like a massive overhaul because, I mean, like, the encounter itself probably doesn't have to change much. I mean, it's
sure, yeah.
They're probably thinking of more along the lines of like how does it interface with the resources in the ground kind of thing, and how does that split, and that kind of stuff we're looking at. So keep an eye out for news on that. I just wanted to hit on that because it was brought up, and thumping's a pretty sore spot for a lot of our crafters right now. Some people feel like it could be pretty toxic. We have a bunch of threads out there where I'm trying to explore and extract feedback into like what changed, what's different between like 0.7 days and now, kind of.
Okay.
So
yeah,
we're collecting that feedback, and it's something we're definitely going to look at as far as at least that's what the systems guys told me, and I trust them.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be sure to take a look at it. I think thumping is one of those things that's uniquely Firefall, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if anything, we should just take that and run with it if we can. So, but there's a lot of, because it, again, is a systems-based sort of content system in a strange way, we need to be careful about how it affects the rest of the game. other people's work and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, exactly. Like Seeger mentioned, in terms of Thumping, it's an instant event, right? It's an on-demand content created by the player. So
Yeah.
that's what's cool about it. Is like a resource gathering on-demand content.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely familiar with Thumping.
Yeah.
You know, I think the thing is you know, what I need to get a better sense of probably is the nuance of Thumping, right?
Yeah.
And, like where the sort of edge cases exist. Like what do people really use this for? How do they use it? How do they abuse it? That kind of stuff. I find one of the things that is really, I mean, it's a gimme, right? To do as a content designer is just take the way people like to play the game, and then just sort of embrace it to some extent, right?
Yeah.
Like if they like doing thumping or they like finding cool places to put thumpers, right? Well, then like let's add some thumping that's about, you know, trying to find a, you know, cool place to put a thumper, right? So I don't know. There's a bunch of examples, but we can go into that later.
Yeah, there's a lot of the sentiment. Yeah, we're aware of all that sentiment. It's pretty much the same stuff.
Yeah.
Pez got a Play-Doh hair mold kit. That's true.
Wait, what?
Someone else, I think there was a comment in there. There was Driller. Like every time he tunes in, I have a different haircut. That might be true.
Yeah, well, I'll make sure I have a different haircut next time on the show too. And we can just make that a thing.
Yeah, we're gonna go back to the mohawk. How about that?
All right. I think I'll just shave it. It's already gone anyway.
One of the other things, and this is something that we were talking about at length, or when we were doing like the show prep earlier this week, was a topic that comes up a lot is how people enjoy or how we think about consequences in the real world. That topic. And,
yeah, it's one of my favorite things to talk about. So yeah, consequence, right? Consequence is one of those things that is really easy to talk about and really hard to pull off in a way that feels good. Everyone always commonly cites the example of, well, these guys will come in and take out this city that we love, and then we'll take it back from them, which is this really cool, like, compelling moment the first time it happens, you know, and then, like, because it's an MMO, right, it's got to happen again. And so it sort of wears on you after a while to, you know, be this endless defender of the city. And the other thing that sort of goes on there, right, is design by failure is the easiest thing to sort of generate like ideas for, because it's such an easy thing to understand, right? So we have this place, we sort of own it, and then somebody tries to take it away from us. It's difficult because what happens in that situation is that the cool thing, like the state change, only occurs when the players fail, right? And so one or two things happens in that situation. Either the players never fail, right? Or they fail all the time. Or maybe, you know, the issue there is, right, is if they never fail, then they never see the cool thing happen, right? And they never get the content to go take that town back. And then if they fail all the time, then, you know, you're logging into this game, you're trying to see the city, and then it's always just overrun by guys, right? So what we try to do is we try to invert the philosophy there a little bit, and go more towards the cool thing happens when you win, right? So the opposite example, or sort of inverse example there is again a chosen fortress, right? And then if you go in there and clear that thing out, then what happens is like the friendly NPCs move in, right? And knowing full well that like that's not going to last, it's sort of a temporary sort of fixture in the world. What you can do there is have, you know, unique content opportunities there, you know, new exploration challenges that are sort of temporary. While you sort of contested that area, and then, you know, later on when it folds back in, it feels natural, and so it doesn't feel like you've been punished, even if you weren't in the game, right? So yeah, to me the sort of state-based, you know, open world narrative stuff works a lot better when you allow the players to sort of be the catalyst of change rather than like the sort of reactors, right? And so, you know, we could put in an event to blow up a bridge.
Nice.
In the
Just
Amazon,
just
right?
all of them.
You know, the Chosen are trying to blow up a bridge, right? But the problem is that you won't, you know, you will never see that bridge get blown up if you're actually there to see it, right? Like because chances are you're there only to sort of defend that bridge, right? And so, you know, like you save all the, you know, it takes a lot of art, right, and a lot of you know, content design to make that thing happen. And what you lose there, right, is you lose all that time when you know, you're more interested in like invested players don't get to have that moment. So like the better one is like, let's blow up their bridge, right? You know, we get to see the big explosion, you know. So But yeah, I think invasions are a lot of fun. We'll work on different ways. We got a couple of things in the works for how to sort of put that kind of content, front and center in the game again. And so, in a way that actually feels really good for the players. So.
Yeah. I think you mentioned one of the other challenges that you run into is that as a player, I log in, and let's say there was a failed scenario.
Yeah.
I log in, and then I'm penalized, I'm putting that in quotes, for something that's not my fault, kind of.
Yeah, you're held responsible for, like, the state of the game is holding you responsible for something that you didn't participate in.
Yeah.
Which is. It feels less interesting than, like, the state of the game is, like, presented me with a challenge, right? And so it's really all about context, right? The context of we've lost a city versus we've taken a city from them, right? It's kind of the same idea, except that what you've done is you've taken the onus and put it on the players, right? Like, instead of being like, you have to stand here and wait for the invasion to show up. It's like, no, we have to invade their city, and then hold it from them. It's ironically, has a lot to do with narrative, right? It's one of those things that a lot of people don't think about in the open world is, what's the story of this place, right?
Yeah, that's true. Mika, did we have one more?
We have 2 more.
Well, I broke my notes, so you get to ask the last one.
Oh, you broke them? The second to last one.
We'll talk about it later.
Ooh. What is Red 5's opinion on making all jobs dynamic?
Making all jobs dynamic. Well, it depends on what you define as dynamic. A lot of people think of dynamic as, it can occur anywhere, right?
Yeah.
But I tend to think of dynamic more as you got to think fourth dimensionally, Marty. Basically, there's a place you can have things spread out across places, or you can have things spread out across time, right? And so the way that works is, an area in the game will have states, right? And so even if it's like a friendly facility, right, we can go like your basic kind of boring MMO fetch and gather quests, right? Like we can accomplish interesting sort of dynamic content in those spaces without resorting to let's just put it randomly across the world, right? And so what we can do is we can have, let's say, an Accord facility where they're staging for a war, and there's a fetch quest or job to get 10 boxes onto the truck, and then we'll escort the truck to the next town, and then we'll unload the truck or something like that. Like, all this is pretty standard MMO content. We could feed all that through a series of quests, right, or jobs. The other thing we could do is we could just direct you to that space with the job, and then the job could just understand what's going on right now and how can you help us, right? And so there's always sort of this hub of activity going on in this facility, but when you arrive there, the NPCs tell you, okay, right now we're loading the truck, so help us out with that, right? And then hopefully, that actually leads to something more interesting, like that truck's going to go down the road now and it's going to get ambushed by Chosen. And so, what you do is you build out states for areas to have, and then you allow the player to sort of affect it, which feels really satisfying. And I think more satisfying than drive out to a random place in the world, do something, and then come back, right? It's more interesting when you can go participate in a narrative or a story that's happening, and it also gives those world builders, right, and level designers a chance to do things like build in some sort of visual storytelling or places for snipers to exist, right? You know what I mean? Well, you can't do that as well with sort of random placement. So yeah, I think dynamic doesn't necessarily mean random. It just means changing.
Yeah.
And for the final question, how big of a project would a full-size city, such as New York, take to build, develop, and overall finish with missions and exploration?
With our current team size?
Yeah, so I mean, I've only been here a month, so I'm still kind of getting a sense of how long some of that stuff takes. I think the bigger question is what kinds of things can we do in those spaces, right? And we're always going to time box development, and so I think the more appropriate question is what would take priority in those spaces, right? And so when I think of a big city, right, Certainly, you'd want to do the verticality thing if you can, and then you'd also want to do a lot of sort of movement in between. What does that mean for movement? Exploring the world, and so like, can we get gameplay that involves going to different floors of those buildings, right? Could we do things like knock buildings over, right? I mean, how crazy can we get? And then again, going back to the sort of dynamic, state-changing nature that I like to see in open world. What kinds of things can players do to affect the city, right? Could they go into a building that's taken by Chosen, and then wipe it all out, and then suddenly there's new content in the building for players, right? Yeah.
Just to give an estimate on that, the world building alone, I think, would, from what I understand, at least a zone like Sir Tao would take 4 months from scratch, is the last estimate I heard. So that's just for the world building, and and that's, you need the level design before that, and you need many other there's many other parts of that. So yeah, world building and level design alone would take the better part of a year.
Yeah, and I'm also like a super strong proponent of polish, right? And so and again, that's where all that stuff is going to come in, right? You'll start with this, even if you build a massive city, you're going to need things in it, right? And that includes the little things that really add up, like the exploration challenges, that I was talking about before. Ambient layers, so that the everywhere in the world feels like it has something to live, or something and someone that lives there, right? So
Yeah.
if we had Sir Tao every 6 months, that'd be awesome. Well, we could probably do that. We just keep releasing Sir Tao.
Copy paste. Copy. I think you can copy chunks in Forge pretty easily. So.
Yeah, well, there you go. It's done.
One other thing that I don't know if we wanted to hit on was making it so that like we have that vertical progression, like as in like levels, right? And one of the things that's come up is, well, I like Coral Forest, I want reason to come back. So that kind of segregation or reason to come back, they're asking about that kind of stuff too, I think.
I think for that one, we circle back to what I was talking about before, where every zone has a purpose, right?
Yeah.
Sort of different narrative element, and again, using the Chosen Warfront example, you would go back to Coral Forest and find this event where we're staging for this invasion, and then in Sir Tao we're traveling towards it, and then finally in the Amazon we're having this battle there. I think the tricky part there, right, is the reward side and the progression side, and how do you make that work, and how do you get players in a space where there are different power levels and still cooperating. It's tricky, and we're looking into a bunch of different ways. There's a number of solutions that it's super polarizing. Like, some people would really hate to be down leveled, right? And some people would think it's the greatest thing in the world, right? And so I think what I want to do is preserve that massive cooperative experience. And so one of the ways that I think we can do it, without resorting to any sort of heavy-handed system stuff, is we can build in content in those zones that actually requires high-level players to come participate, right? And whether or not that's manifested in sort of the edges of the map where like your regular progression wouldn't take you through, or just in sort of later stages of that content. So like, again, like referencing an event like Skydock, where there's this big dynamic event, could we put in roles and opportunities for high-level players to go in and have appropriate combat challenges, right, they're set up for their gear, right? Those kinds of things, so that it doesn't feel like there's no purpose for a higher level player in this area. So we're still working through the technical details of that kind of thing, and trying to figure out what we can accomplish in a reasonable time frame, and then also what incentive higher level players have to do that kind of thing is certainly there's room for adding systems that are for earning some amount of rewards that are based on a specific map, right? And so there can be a specific set of things you get from Coral Forest and then Sir Tao and all the regions, right? And so every time we add a region, we essentially add your rewards that are based in that region. So there's always a reason to come back to those things and either help other people with that stuff or just do it yourself. And then, you know, maybe we can extend, you know, or funnel specific resources. I mean, like, going back to Thumping, right? Like, it seems like a prime opportunity for Thumping is just to, like, different parts of the world have different resources, maybe, right? And again, I don't want to get into the systems designer's Kool-Aid or anything like that, but I think there's a lot of options, right?
Yeah.
And I'm kind of looking into all of them right now.
Well, there we have it. I covered a lot there, I think. So, yeah, I mean, if you guys have any more questions, go ahead and
Fire away. A couple people said hardcore versions of lower level zones. I do think that's a cool idea, and like we used to kind of reminisce about like some of the older games that used to have like hardcore servers or whatever.
Yeah.
The only thing about that is it's in a cooperative game like Firefall, I don't think you don't want to fracture the community too much, and so that's just, I'm not saying we would never do it or we would do it, but that's just one of the downsides I think you have to think about.
Yeah. But yeah, guys. The other thing is, obviously, you can post on the forums if you guys want to continue the discussion that we had today.
I'll be on the forums more and more as I get the time. I try to carve out some time, like maybe in the mornings or weekends, sort of check in there with you guys.
Yeah.
I do read it a lot. It's tricky. I hate to start a conversation on the forums and not be able to finish it.
Yeah.
So hopefully when I post, I'll have time to read your responses and stuff like that. So you will see me on there.
Some people asking about the battle frames. The battle frames are getting heavily looked at.
Yeah.
They're all the advanced frames are getting a full pass right now. We're actually in the middle of that. Cowboy's working on that. He's going to be on the show in a few weeks, I think, here. So we'll get to talk about some of the advanced battle frames and all the cool stuff he's doing with that. But for now, I think we'll get into the next segment there, which is going to be our add-on spotlight, our very first add-on spotlight. We'll go through this really quick. And what are we spotlighting, Mika?
Meldy.
Meldy? We have
From Arky.
Wait, we have some PR art for the add-on spotlight. For the first time ever in Firefall Live history, making their first Firefall Live appearance from the melding, a ray of hope in a post-apocalyptic world. I can't read the screen; it's so small.
It's a little small.
This is great. So, Arky is our guest, and she's gonna Skype in. No, I'm kidding.
I was like excited. I was like, really?
I keep teasing her about that. She's like, no, I don't want to get on voice and chat with you guys. She created Scrappy, which was like when we first put in salvaging. You had to salvage everything one by one. So she made Scrappy, which is like an auto salvager. Then Yan Cat.
Yep.
But we're gonna talk about Meldy.
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 That's a look at Meldy. So Mika, what does Meldy do?
Meldy compiles all your awesome add-ons into one.
Yeah.
Well, it took over another add-on.
Right. So Melder, which was originally written by Radther Dax, son Radther of Dax. They'll get it. Which was we didn't really have a good way to do add-ons like installations, so they took it upon themselves to create like this tool that you can install with, because the other thing is when you patch, when you put the add-ons in the client, they're all gone.
Yeah.
Like all your add-ons clear out and all that stuff. So they created this as an easy way to install your add-ons. So
That's cool.
Mika's going to give us her best Arky impression.
She has an awesome accent, which I cannot even dream to replicate, so I'm just going to say it in my regular
Are
voice.
you sure you don't want to put you on the spot or anything like that?
It's like, it's Irish,
Irish?
and it's like, maybe I could do Russian.
I wouldn't
but
go there.
Irish,
Maybe Russian.
Irish.
Did you learn Russian from Lee?
Maybe.
If I did it, I
He's a
would
good
just
teacher.
offend somebody.
Everyone's like, Arky, no Skype.
Arky, no Skyping.
There it is. Your people are calling out for you.
I know. I was like, I want to hear your beautiful voice.
So, Arky, what inspired you to create Meldy?
The original add-on manager, Melder, by I can never pronounce it.
Radther of Dax.
Radther Dax started to have some issues close to Firefall's launch, and since Rad had gotten too busy to put any more time into it, silly guy got a job, I decided to make something replace it with his blessings. Plus, I thought having an open source add-on manager would help the community by allowing anyone to add new features to it.
Yay! Did you stumble across any challenges in the making of Meldy? Oh boy.
Yeah, there were quite a few edge cases regarding how to install add-ons on different users' setups, as well as trying to fully support the old Melder while adding new things into the mix.
Yeah. I imagine that weren't the only. She's just downplaying it. I'm sure that was a pretty difficult one to create.
She's like, Arky's a boss.
What other add-ons have you created?
So as Frank touched on earlier, Meldy created the Scrappy that automatically salvages loot drops. Airy added in world timetables for dropships. IRCE to talk on IRC channels from in-game.
So if you guys don't know, based on these, with the double I is the
Yeah.
Arky trademark. So if you see an add-on with the double I on it, that's Arky's trademark there.
E?
E.
And then her personal favorite is the Nyan glider, which plays the Nyan 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 when you glide, which is awesome.
What does it do?
Nyan 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 Nyan. Like that with your hands. That's how it works. All right.
How did you learn to create add-ons? I mean, that's most of them are all self-taught, right?
Pretty much just by poking at the official UI code as well as some other add-ons. The great thing about Firefall and add-ons is that the base UI code is there, so you have tons of examples to work from. Mavic was also pretty cool. When I first started, he would give me little pointers on how best to do some things, as well as criticizing some of my spellings. I also had previous battle scars from programming before, so a lot of the pain helped. I'm sorry. That sounds terrible.
Battle scars from
Arky.
programming.
Where would you suggest for viewers to start that are interested in creating add-ons of their own?
The main thing is just to get stuck in. Find an add-on and just start modifying bits of it until you start to get a feel on how it works.
Arky also has I forget the site. Someone tell us the link. Someone in chat tell us the link. There's a site where you it shows basically all the APIs that are exposed to you. I mean, for Firefall anyway. So you could just basically go there and see all the stuff that you need to create an add-on. Can she? Fireriser's been asking about the Shimmer Core audio all show. The Shimmer Core audio. I was talking to Mike, or one of our sound guys, about it, and he's like, "Yeah, there's someone futzed with some setting, and it kind of." The Shimmer Core audio is now broken. It's super loud for people that have the Shimmer Core. So yeah, we're definitely aware of that.
Game development.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
What did I trick you?
Because of the links, we told them to link it.
Well,
Get ripped.
use a space and a dot or something. I don't know. Firefall dot. You know what I mean.
Gold spammer talk.
I'm trying to get you. I forgot. Moobot, you're a jerk.
Thanks, Moobot. He's always waiting.
No, we don't allow
Waiting in
links.
the
Just do
wings.
dot in the brackets with the dot, with the word dot or something. I forget it. Scrappy for the win. But that's our add-on. So there's another one a prototype that she built.
Yeah.
We have a
Got
quick
the
video
name.
of that.
Oh, we have it? Sweet.
Yeah, I think we have that. There we go. So she made a prototype of our call down menu, reworked.
So awesome.
Mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so sweet.
Certainly very extensive.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like it's just a way
There's a lot of work there.
to use the nav wheel, but
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. That one never saw the light of day, so that's the first time you guys are seeing that. But it's pretty cool. I don't know what hurdle she ran into with this.
Yeah, first person and third person. We're good to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure why that. Yeah, there's like a 13-minute demo I think she has of it, but it never saw the light of day. I'm not sure what she ran into with that. Maybe that's maybe there were some technical things. I'm not sure entirely. Maybe we just started reworking things or broke the code. I don't know how old that is, honestly. It's very old. There you go. So we probably broke all that stuff.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, we need to
Yeah.
talk.
Main development.
That's pretty cool, though. We should show that to Woo. Be like, hey, look. Lazy. That's what happened. Lazy.
Lazy.
That is the running gag with the community anarchy, is that she's lazy.
That's funny.
Pretty cool. Well, that's our very first add-on spotlight. Thank you, Arky, for making add-ons. We're gonna look at other add-on creators and all their other stuff.
Cool.
You know, over the course of many other shows.
I look forward to it.
Typically, we do even Art Bro, but we're trying to add in some other community, like spotlight other community works. So, Do Even Art Bro is going to become like it's still going to be a thing, but it's going to be like a recurring. It's not going to be as recurring. We're going to be sprinkling other things in there. So Do Even Art Bro is basically like we put up like 3 pieces of fan art and we vote on them. But while that accumulates, we can talk about other cool stuff. And before we wrap up, every week on Facebook we post a candid photo of people at the office.
Oh, no.
Well, this week's we took it from the set of the show last week, Firefall Live, and it's a picture of when Lee was trying to show us the scars on his shin that he got from wearing that suit at a convention.
Speaking of battle scars.
Speaking of battle scars. So there's the first one.
Oh my
I
God.
used to be an
So I took an
adventurer
arrow to
like
the knee.
you until I took an arrow
was-
to the knee.
Had to be done.
Had to be done.
Yes.
We'd be disappointed if it wasn't.
I'm glad that one was used.
Check out this baby cow.
Knife Lady OS is reading them out for us.
I got something for you. That's a thresher. You see that, Chief? That's Thresher's tail. I stuck my foot so far up that chosen's rear that my toes came back all melded.
Oh boy.
And this is the hickey that the monster from the cinematic trailer gave Typhon. See how nice and soft my leg is after shaving?
Smooth puppies.
This is how deep I got before the suit started shorting out.
Nice water joke. I love that one. Started taking damage.
Remind me
man.
never to let you guys take any pictures of me. Ever.
Too late.
Some of my favorite ones are like when they just comment on the scenery. Like there was one where it was just like it was a picture of I think Sarah when she was in the old building, and it was just like there was like a ball somewhere on the picture, and they're like off the back wall, you know, out onto the Dexter poster over here, and then there's just like it just like bounce all around, and then nothing but net. I'm like, yeah, I remember those. What about the water kraken? Yes. What about the water kraken?
What about it?
We'll talk about the water kraken some other time.
Knowledge confirmed. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Our Kraken's always in water.
Well, water is his first name, right?
Water, oh yeah. So, water Kraken.
Oh my God. Anyways, Anthony, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us
this
today.
is great. I really had fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. I hope you guys all feel a little bit more informed, comfortable, whatever. I think we covered a lot of good topics, and you know, please feel free to continue the discussion on the forums and post on the forums, and we'll definitely be reading that. The guest for next Firefall Live is Chris Berzko.
I can't pronounce.
It's
Yeah.
he's one of our web dev guys. He's going to be on, and then the week after that's going to be a Tech Ops Invasion, and then Cloud Chaser, Cowboy. So
Wow.
yeah.
Good job remembering the order. I'm like,
Yeah, right?
I wrote them
That's
down.
pretty
I don't
good.
remember exactly the order. Kudos.
So yeah. And then Kevin Lee, I think we just booked for late July. Kevin Lee's working on PvP, so we'll have Kevin Lee to talk about PvP in July. So that's going to be pretty awesome.
Cool.
All right, guys. Well, we'll see you all next week. Take care.
Bye.
Welcome to the Ares Initiative, pilot. You are an assault reconnaissance extraction specialist. You are humanity's greatest hope. The melding has transformed the Earth. The Chosen harass our strongholds while bandits take advantage of the chaos, pushing us to the edge. The Accord is only just able to keep it together. But you can change that. Our foothold is in New Eden, but it's not enough. We're giving you the top-of-the-line battle frames to strike back against all that threaten us. But these are just the beginning, because our enemies are getting stronger, and so must we. Hone your skills, gain combat experience, build your own armory of battle frames, and master their capabilities. This is the only way we can overcome the enemy. Use what resources you can find to create weapons and enhance your battle frame. Mastering these skills will let you do more than survive. This is how you will become the ultimate weapon. Work with your fellow Ares pilots. But be aware, not everyone has your interest at heart. Your journey will not be easy. The world has changed, and with it come new challenges that will test your will. But with the Ares Initiative, we can push back the melding, defeat the Chosen, and take back our planet, our home.